Right now, while you sleep, 159 countries are quietly abandoning the US dollar in the largest monetary revolution since 1944. They say America's currency dominance is permanent, backed by military might and economic superiority. The truth is, every reserve currency in history has fallen, and the dollar's 80-year reign is ending exactly like the British pound's collapse after World War II. China and Russia have already created a $240 billion trade settlement system that bypasses SWIFT entirely, while Saudi Arabia just signed oil deals in Yuan for the first time since 1974. The BRICS nations, representing 42% of global population and 36% of world GDP, are launching their own reserve currency backed by gold and commodities. A direct declaration of monetary war against Western financial control. This isn't gradual economic evolution. It's coordinated financial warfare designed to destroy dollar hegemony within the next decade. In the next 12 minutes, I'll reveal which countries are positioning to win this currency war, which will face economic devastation, and most importantly, how you can protect your wealth by understanding the historical patterns that determine winners and losers when reserve currencies collapse. Because when the dust settles, entire nations will either emerge as new financial superpowers or join the graveyard of former monetary empires. Transport yourself to London, July 15, 1944, as delegates from 44 nations gathered at the Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to reshape the global financial system. British economist John Maynard Keynes, representing a bankrupt empire that had spent $28 billion fighting Hitler, sat across from American Treasury Secretary Harry Dexter. White in the hotel's elegant gold room, the air was thick with cigarette smoke and the weight of empire. Transfer, as Keynes desperately argued for his Bancor, an international reserve currency that would preserve Britain's financial influence. But White held all the cards. America owned 60% of the world's gold reserves, produced 50% of global manufacturing, and emerged from the war as the only major power with its infrastructure intact. The death of the pound sterling as the world's reserve currency wasn't announced with fanfare. It happened in quiet negotiations over tea and cigars as Britain, facing a $21 billion war debt, was forced to accept American financial dominance. For 200 years, the pound had financed global trade, funded industrial revolutions, and made London the financial capital of the world. British merchants had grown wealthy financing railroads in Argentina, rubber plantations in Malaysia, and gold mines in South Africa, all denominated in pounds that everyone trusted. But 2 world wars had shattered Britain's economic foundation, forcing the nation to liquidate overseas investments, abandon the gold standard, and watch helplessly as American banks replaced British institutions in global finance. Keynes knew he was witnessing the end of an era, later writing that Bretton Woods marked the fall of the British Empire and the rise of American hegemony. The pound's collapse accelerated with stunning speed after Bretton Woods. By 1947, Britain faced the worst balance of payments crisis in its history, with reserves falling to just $2.4 billion, while owing $14 billion to creditors worldwide. Prime Minister Clement Attlee made the fatal decision to restore pound convertibility in July 1947, hoping to reclaim London's role as a global financial center. Within 6 weeks, the policy nearly bankrupted the nation, as investors dumped $200 million worth of pounds in a massive speculative attack, forcing Britain to suspend convertibility after just 37 days. The human cost was devastating. Bread rationing continued until 1948, longer than during the war itself, while ordinary Britons watched their purchasing power evaporate as the pound lost 30% of its value against the dollar. Harold Wilson, a young economist at the Board of Trade, witnessed middle-class families unable to afford basic imports as everything from American grain to Australian wool became prohibitively expensive. The psychological blow was even worse. For generations, British citizens had traveled the world with pounds accepted everywhere, but now found themselves treated as second-class financial citizens. By 1949, Chancellor of the Exchequer Stafford Cripps was forced to devalue the pound by 30%, from $4.03 to $2.80, in a desperate attempt to restore competitiveness. The devaluation triggered a global crisis, as 19 other countries followed suit, but it was too late to save Britain's monetary supremacy. International banks moved their reserves from London to New York. Global trade shifted from pounds to dollars, and the City of London transformed from the world's financial capital into a regional European center. By 1950, dollar-denominated international reserves exceeded pound reserves for the first time since 1860, marking the official end of sterling's 200-year dominance. The empire that had financed the Industrial Revolution was reduced to begging America for Marshall Plan aid. Today's dollar faces the identical pressures that destroyed British pound dominance, but compressed into a much shorter time frame. America's national debt has exploded from $5.7 trillion in 2000 to $33.7 trillion today, a 490% increase that mirrors Britain's unsustainable war spending. The Federal Reserve's money printing since 2008 totals $9 trillion, devaluing the dollar exactly like Britain's post-war monetary expansion that triggered the 1947 convertibility crisis. Most critically, alternative payment systems are proliferating. China's cross-border interbank payment system, CIPS, processed $50 trillion in transactions last year, while Russia's SPFS system connects 440 financial institutions across 20 countries. Saudi Arabia's recent oil sales to China in Yuan marked the same kind of confidence loss that ended Britain's empire. When your biggest allies stop using your currency, collapse accelerates exponentially. The BRICS expansion to include Iran, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Ethiopia represents 45% of global population and $30 trillion in combined GDP, creating the largest economic bloc in history, united specifically to challenge dollar hegemony. Unlike Britain's gradual decline over decades, America faces coordinated digital warfare. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are being designed specifically to bypass the dollar system, while Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies offer neutral alternatives that no single nation controls. Regional bank failures like Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, and Credit Suisse mirror the sterling crisis pattern of institutional collapse preceding currency collapse. Jerome Powell's recent pivot to money printing after brief rate hikes follows Britain's exact 1947 playbook, temporary tightening followed by panic printing that accelerates international confidence loss. The mathematics are identical. When your currency constitutes 60% of global reserves, but your economy represents only 24% of global GDP, you're living on borrowed time and borrowed money. Here's your three-step strategy to survive and profit from the coming currency war using lessons from Britain's collapse. First, diversify internationally before capital controls arrive. Open accounts in currencies and countries that will benefit from dollar decline, specifically Singapore dollars, Swiss francs, and assets in BRICS nations that are building the new monetary system. Britain's citizens who moved money to America before 1947 preserved their wealth, while those who trusted government promises lost everything. Allocate 20–30% of your wealth to non-dollar denominated assets immediately. Second, own the same hard assets that protected wealth during every previous reserve currency transition. Gold, silver, productive farmland, and energy resources that maintain value regardless of which currency dominates global trade. Central banks worldwide are accumulating gold at record levels because they understand what's coming. Follow their lead by holding 15–20% of your portfolio in physical precious metals stored outside the banking system. Third, invest in companies and countries positioned to win the currency war. Chinese technology firms, Indian manufacturers, Brazilian commodity producers, and Russian energy companies that will thrive in the new multipolar world order. Avoid long-term dollar-denominated debt and US-centric investments that will suffer as American financial dominance ends. The transition window is closing rapidly. Every month you delay is another month your wealth remains trapped in a declining monetary system. Position yourself with the winners before the losers drag you down with them. History doesn't repeat, but if you don't understand it, it will crush you all the same. Subscribe now because next week I'm revealing the specific banks and investment platforms that give you access to the currencies and assets that will replace the dollar system. The modern equivalent of those Swiss accounts that saved European wealth during World War II.